Now, Deanne, you're Deanne. Where do you come down on this?
We're unschoolers, and these are my 3 children, and if you ask them, I think they're very happy with their lives. They actually have been in school, and we took them out for several reasons. But I have to tell you that I guess I would have to give you a few examples of how learning occurs, but it's truly amazing.
Why is hi, is this your 6-year-old?
Yes.
Okay. Did she decide to come today?
Yes, she wanted to be with us.
Okay. And you thought that was appropriate?
I did, yes.
So am I your teacher today?
Your teacher today?
Forget about her. She can get away with anything with that face. She's as cute as they come. She'll never have any problems. But are you concerned about any of the things you've heard here today about unschooling? And you say you're not an unschooler, you're a homeschooler, and that's different.
From what I'm understanding, I mean, I do believe in structure and...
Okay, and you think no, you think there...
I would say the difference between unschooling and homeschooling is that unschooling, we're using the world as our classroom rather than our dining room table. We are out and about. My children, we have a geography club. They have a book group that they meet at the local bookstore once a month. They have a park day every Tuesday. They are involved in Destination Imagination, team competitions that other schools participate in, and they actually compete against schooled kids. They take music lessons. They have a teen jam session at our home. I open it up, our garage. It's sort of like School of Rock, if you guys have seen that movie in Jack Black. We do that.
Yeah, but that was a movie.
It's real life in our house.
And they didn't have to take SATs. If these guys have to take SATs to get into a university, how will they do?
I have no doubt that they will do awesome. There have been many unschooled kids that have never taken a test before and gone and taken the SAT and done quite well.
And that's kind of a matter of the difference between parents, right?
Probably. Actually, you really do have to expose your kids to a lot of things. For example, my kids, they love to read. Casey reads just several hours a day, and he loves to read books about history. And so ask him anything about history. It's pretty darn amazing. They just got home from a huge trip with their grandparents. Every year, my mom and dad take them on a trip around the United States, and the goal is to get them to all 50 states. They've now been to 43. And they just returned. They went to Niagara Falls and drove all the way through New England states, Massachusetts.
Okay, I got it. So you're giving them a rich environment. And you're so you're a history buff? You're the history buff?
Yeah.
Okay, who was the mayor of Istanbul in 1954? I don't know either. I have no idea. All right, next, a 26-year-old woman who says homeschooling made her socially retarded. Her story when we come back.
I was homeschooled from the 2nd grade through all of high school, and it messed me up for a long time. I believe that homeschooling can have devastating effects on children. I am now 26 years old, and I feel like an outcast. Homeschooling has made me feel socially retarded. I want parents to listen to people like me who have been through it and hated it.
Well, today is the great school debate, and I'm really interested in knowing from the audience, how many of you, just by a show of hands, think that homeschooling is a legitimate alternative? Raise your hand. Well, that's maybe a third. How many of you think unschooling, where I don't know how you'd best differentiate it from homeschooling, less structure and the kids learn what they're ready to learn? Child-directed learning. How many of you think that's a viable alternative? Okay, that's maybe 5%. All right, how many of you think that the public schools or the traditional schools, while not perfect, is the most viable alternative? Okay, that's most everybody. Okay, and we all agree that it's not perfect. Well, my next guest, Nicole, says that she hated being homeschooled. She says that she lacked a social life and couldn't relate to other kids. And at the age of 26, she still feels like an outcast.
Dear Dr. Phil, my name is Nicole. I was homeschooled from the 2nd grade through all of high school, and it messed me up for a long time. I believe that homeschooling can have devastating effects on children. Parents have no idea how missing out on the public or private school experience can cause psychological and sociological damage. There is something about high school that validates you and gives you your rite of passage into the real world. I am now 26 years old, and I constantly hear stories from friends about proms, football games, cheerleading squads, and more. I always feel like an outcast because I can never relate. Homeschooling has made me feel socially retarded because I lived in a completely different world from everyone else. Even to this day, I think about going to college, but I still need to overcome my fear of stepping into a classroom. I want parents to think about the consequences of such a choice and not make a rash decision. And I wish they would listen to people like me who have been through it and hated it.
Did your parents make the efforts that this homeschooler and these unschoolers have described in terms of getting you exposed to others at like the 4-H and community activities and different sort of things?
I did have a part-time job, and I did have as a teenager, and I was very involved in my church. So there was some social things involved.
What did you miss most in looking back?
What I missed most was just the opportunity to learn with other kids, to maybe hate that one girl with the purple hair who thought she was all that, or maybe just to, you know, try out for a cheerleading squad, or to have the opportunity to grasp for something more than I am now, so I could become more than, so I could just become more. And also the ability to learn how to negotiate with other people, because it's easy to get kids involved with things that they like if your kids like acting, it's easy to get them involved in, say, community theater, where they can interact with other kids who like the same thing. That's easy to do, but what about the other kids who don't have the same interests? Where do you find that bridge? How do you find common ground and connect with them?
So what do you think these guys are missing?
I don't even know where to start. I do think that they're missing a very wide social aspect. I do believe that they're missing the ability to choose on their own who their friends are, who their friends maybe won't be, how to have acquaintances, not so much have a...
There is a process. I mean, there is a process to the school situation that you wouldn't know otherwise. Rick, you're with California Department of Education, and you think that traditional is the best way to go. What do you think is the key element besides just the academics that's offered through the school system?
Well, I would say generally I do think it's the best choice, but I think it's important that parents find what's best for their kids. And what's important to know, unlike when I went to school or when our parents went to school, there's a lot of choice now in the public education systems. There's charter schools, there's magnet schools, and so there's a way for parents to find what's best for their child and do it within the public school system, which has a lot of rich advantages.
Yeah, so it's not an all or none if
That's
you
exactly
do go
right.
the traditional route. Will you ever put your children in school and let them decide if it feels right for them?
If they choose to.
All right, we'll be right back. The education of our children is obviously a serious subject. After all, they are the future of our world. So what is the best way to educate them? Whether it's homeschool, traditional school, or unschool, you have to select the form of education that best suits your children. And Rick, as you were just saying, there are options within the traditional school system. And in fact, the research seems to indicate that up to the middle school level, that there seems to be no disadvantage to homeschooling your children. But once they hit that point where they become very socially aware and socially sensitized, then some children, like you, can have an experience where they feel like they've actually missed something, despite the parents' efforts to socialize them through activities in the community. If you'd like to weigh in on today's school debate, go to drphil.com. We'd love to hear from you on the message boards. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.